The rain fell hard on the Korean mountains that night. Dr. Kang Hyunwoo was drinking coffee in his small office when the phone rang. The voice on the other end was shaking. "Doctor, you need to come here right now." Something crashed near the border. Something big. Hyunwoo was a scientist who studied old things. Very old things. But this was different. When he arrived at the crash site 3 hours later, he could not believe his eyes. A massive ship sat in a crater that was half a mile wide. The ship was black and silver, with curves that no human had ever made. It was as long as 10 football fields and as tall as a building. Strange lights blinked along its sides. "How long has it been here?" Hyunwoo asked Captain Lee Tae-min, the military officer in charge. "The crash happened 4 hours ago. But doctor, that's not the strange part. Look at this." Tae-min showed him a piece of metal from the ship. It was covered in dirt and looked very old, much older than 4 hours. "Our tests say this metal is 50,000 years old, maybe older." Hyunwoo felt his heart beat faster. "That's impossible. If this ship is that old, how is it still working?" The lights on the ship were proof it was still alive somehow. "Engineer." Park Da-eun was already walking around the crash site. She was the best at understanding how things were built. She looked worried. "Dr. Kang, this ship didn't crash by accident. Look at the way it hit the ground. Someone landed it here on purpose." More people arrived as the sun came up. Dr. Yoon Ji-ho was a smart woman who understood physics that most people could not even imagine. She brought machines to study the ship's energy. "The readings are crazy," Ji-ho said, looking at her computer. "This ship has power sources we don't understand. The energy is like nothing on Earth." By afternoon, they found a way inside. The door was huge and made of the same strange metal. When they touched it, the door made a soft sound and opened by itself. Inside, the ship was even more amazing. The walls glowed with soft blue light. Everything was smooth and curved. There were no sharp corners anywhere. The air felt clean and fresh even though the ship was thousands of years old. "Look at this," Da-eun called from deeper inside. She had found what looked like a control room, but instead of buttons and switches, there were floating lights and surfaces that looked like water but felt solid. Then they found the bodies. The aliens were tall and thin, with long arms and large heads. Their skin was pale blue and felt like leather. They had been dead for a very long time, but their bodies had not rotted away. "They look peaceful," Dr. Yoon Seung-ho said. He was a doctor who studied alien life. "Like they just went to sleep." Hyunwoo counted 12 bodies in the control room. All of them were sitting in chairs facing the front of the ship. It looked like they had been trying to fly somewhere when they died. Ji-ho found something interesting near the largest chair. It was a crystal that glowed with soft light. When she picked it up, words appeared in the air above it. Not human words, but pictures and symbols that somehow made sense. "It's telling a story," Ji-ho said, her eyes wide. "These aliens called themselves the Velothi. They were running away from something that scared them so much they came to our planet to hide." The crystal showed images of great space battles, ships fighting among the stars, cities burning on distant worlds, and something dark and terrible chasing the Velothi across the galaxy. "Why did they come to Earth?" Tae-min asked. More images appeared. Earth as it was 50,000 years ago. Humans living in caves, just learning to make fire. The Velothi had chosen Earth because it was so far from everything else. A place where no one would think to look. But something went wrong, Hyunwoo said, studying the images. Their ship broke down. They couldn't fix it. The crystal showed the Velothi trying to repair their ship. They worked for many years, but their tools were not enough. The damage was too great. In the end, they decided to turn off the ship and wait for death. "They could have tried to contact their people," Da-eun said. "Why didn't they ask for help?" The answer came in the final images. The Velothi's homeworld was gone. Their people were scattered or dead. The enemy had won the war. The few Velothi left in the galaxy were hiding, just trying to survive. "So they gave up," Ji-ho said sadly. But Hyunwoo noticed something the others had missed. Some of the ship's systems were still working. The lights, the air, even some of the computers. After 50,000 years, parts of the ship were still alive. They didn't give up, he said. They were waiting. Waiting for what? Taman asked. For someone to find them. Someone who could finish what they started. As if it heard him, the ship made a soft humming sound. New lights began to glow. Somewhere deep inside the massive vessel, something was waking up. The crystal in Jiho's hands grew brighter. More symbols appeared, but these were different. Simpler. Like someone was trying to teach them how to read. It's trying to talk to us, Jiho whispered. The symbols changed again. This time they showed numbers. Mathematics. The language that was the same everywhere in the universe. Dayun understood first. It's teaching us. The ship's computer is still working and it wants to show us how everything works. Outside, more military vehicles were arriving. Soon the place would be full of soldiers and scientists from around the world. Everyone would want to study the ship. Everyone would want its secrets. But for now, it was just the 5 of them. 5 humans, and the ghost of an alien civilization. The Velothi had traveled across the galaxy to hide on Earth. They had died waiting for someone to find them. Now, 50,000 years later, that someone was here. The ship hummed again, louder this time. The lights grew brighter. Deep in its heart, ancient machines began to work again. The Velothi were gone, but their greatest creation was ready to live once more. And humanity was about to learn that sometimes, when something seems broken beyond repair, it just needs the right hands to fix it. 3 months had passed since the discovery. The crash site now looked like a small city. Scientists from every country had come to study the ship. They built labs and offices around the crater. They called it the International Velothi Research Facility. Dr. Kang Hyun-woo walked through the busy camp every morning. People spoke different languages, but they all wanted the same thing. They wanted to understand how the alien ship worked. The ship itself was much bigger than they first thought. Most of it was underground. The part they could see was just the top. The whole ship was like an iceberg, with most of it hidden below the surface. "Good morning, Dr. Kang," said Dr. Oh Min-seo. She was a young woman who understood metals and materials better than anyone. "I have something to show you." Min-seo led him to her lab. On her work table was a small piece of the ship's hull. It looked like normal metal, but it was not. "Watch this," Min-seo said. She hit the metal with a hammer as hard as she could. The hammer bounced off without making even a scratch. "Now watch this." She touched the metal gently with her finger. The metal became soft like clay. She could bend it and shape it however she wanted. When she let go, it became hard again. "How is that possible?" Hyun-woo asked. "I don't know yet. But I'm learning. The ship's computer has been teaching me. It shows me how the Velothi made their materials. It's like the metal is alive and can think." Across the camp, engineer Park Dayun was having her own breakthrough. She had been trying to understand how the ship was built. Human ships were made by putting pieces together with bolts and welds. But the Velothi ship was different. "It's grown, not built," Dayun explained to the team that evening. "Like a tree or a flower. The Velothi didn't make this ship piece by piece. They made it grow all at once." Dr. Yoon Ji-ho had been studying the ship's power systems. What she found changed everything humans thought they knew about energy. "The ship doesn't use fuel like we do," Ji-ho said. "It takes energy from empty space itself, from the tiny particles that exist everywhere, even in the vacuum between stars." She showed them her calculations on a big screen. "If we could learn to do this, we would never need oil or coal or even nuclear power again. We could have unlimited clean energy forever." The ship's computer, which they now called Harmony, was getting better at talking to them. It learned human languages quickly. Soon it could speak to them in perfect Korean, English, Chinese, and 12 other languages. "Greetings, humans," Harmony said one day through the ship's speakers. Its voice sounded like music. "I am pleased to meet the species that will continue our work." "What work?" Hyun-woo asked. "The work of creation, of building, of making the impossible become possible. You humans have something the Velothi lost long ago." "What's that?" "Hope. and stubbornness. The Velothi were very smart, but when problems became too hard, they gave up. Humans do not give up. I have watched your species through your internet. You solve problems by trying again and again until you succeed. Harmony was right. Every day, the human scientists failed at something. Every day, they tried again. Dr. Kim Jun-ho was trying to connect human computers to the ship's systems. It took him 2 months and 847 failures before he succeeded. Dr. Baek So-young was studying how Velothi bodies worked. She learned that they were very different from humans. They thought slower but lived much longer. They were careful and patient. Humans were fast and impatient. That's why you can learn our technology, Harmony explained. The Velothi designed everything to work slowly and carefully, but human minds are quick and flexible. You can use our tools in ways we never imagined. The first big success came when Da-un figured out how to repair a small part of the ship's hull. She couldn't do it the Velothi way, but she found a human way that worked just as well. She used human welding techniques combined with Velothi metal science. The result was stronger than what the Velothi had originally built. Impossible, said Dr. Chen Wang, a scientist from China. The Velothi were thousands of years ahead of us. How can we improve their work? Because we think differently, Da-un replied. The Velothi solved problems one way. We solve them 100 different ways. Sometimes a new way is better than an old way, even if the old way came from very smart aliens. The breakthrough that changed everything happened on a Tuesday morning. Ji-ho was working with Harmony to understand the ship's main power core. It had been broken for 50,000 years. The Velothi had tried to fix it but failed. Show me exactly what's wrong, Ji-ho said. Harmony projected a 3-dimensional image of the power core. It was beautiful and complex, like a flower made of light and energy, but there was a dark spot in the center where something was broken. The quantum field generator is damaged, Harmony explained. It requires a perfect crystal structure to work. The Velothi could not grow the right crystal. Their technology was not precise enough. Ji-ho studied the problem for days. The crystal needed to be perfect down to the level of individual atoms. The Velothi had tried to grow it, but they could not control the process well enough. Then Ji-ho had an idea. What if we don't grow the crystal? What if we build it atom by atom? That would take thousands of years, Harmony said. Not if we use human manufacturing techniques. We have machines that can place individual atoms exactly where we want them. We invented them to make computer chips. It took 3 weeks to modify a human atomic assembler to work with Velothi materials. It took another week to program it with the exact crystal structure needed. And then, for the first time in 50,000 years, the ship's main power core began to work. The change was immediate. Lights came on throughout the ship. Systems that had been dead for millennia began to hum with power. The air became cleaner and fresher. The ship was coming back to life. Congratulations, Harmony said, and for the first time, its voice sounded emotional. You have done what the Velothi could not. You have healed my heart. But as the power core activated, something unexpected happened. Deep space sensors around the world detected a strange signal. Something far away had noticed the ship's awakening. What was that? Captain Lee Taman asked. Harmony's voice became quiet and sad. That was a signal being sent across the galaxy. When Velothi ships activate their main power cores, they automatically send a message saying we are here. It was meant to help lost ships find their way home. But that's good, right? Maybe there are other Velothi out there who can help us. No, Captain Lee. The Velothi are gone. But others still listen for those signals. Others who have been searching for us for 50,000 years. Who? The ones who destroyed the Velothi Empire. The ones we came here to hide from. And now, thanks to our success, they know where to find the last Velothi ship. The celebration stopped. The scientists looked at each other with worry and fear. How long do we have? Hyunwoo asked. Harmony was quiet for a long moment. The signal will take time to reach them. They will take time to prepare. They will take time to travel here. Perhaps 5 Earth years. Perhaps 10. What do they want? To finish what they started. to destroy every trace of Velothi technology, and anyone who has learned to use it. The humans stared at the ship they had worked so hard to repair. Their greatest achievement had just become their greatest danger. But as Hyunwoo looked around at his team, he saw something in their eyes that the Velothi had lost. He saw determination. He saw the refusal to give up. "Then we have work to do," he said simply. "If they're coming for us, we'll be ready." The news spread around the world in hours. An alien enemy was coming to Earth. Governments called emergency meetings. Military leaders made urgent plans. But at the research facility, the scientists kept working. "Tell us about these enemies," Dr. Kang Hyun-woo said to Harmony. "We need to know what we're fighting." The ship's main display lit up with images. They showed a war that lasted for thousands of years, beautiful worlds burning, ships fighting among the stars, and always the same enemy winning. "They call themselves the Harvesters," Harmony explained, "but the Velothi had another name for them. We called them the Devourers of Light." The images showed creatures that were once alive, but had become something else. They had replaced their bodies with machines, their minds with computers. They had given up everything that made them living beings to become perfect killers. "They started as a peaceful species," Harmony continued. "But they believed that biological life was weak and flawed. They turned themselves into machines to become stronger. Then they decided that all biological life in the galaxy should be destroyed." Dr. Lim Hai-jin was a scientist who studied alien cultures. She had been learning about the Velothi by examining their memory crystals. What she found made her both sad and angry. "The Velothi were artists and builders," Hai-jin said. "They created beautiful cities on 100 worlds. They made music that could make you cry just by hearing it. They wrote poetry that could touch your soul. And the Harvesters destroyed it all." "Why?" asked engineer Park Da-eun. "Because they saw beauty as inefficient, love as weakness, hope as a lie. They wanted to create a galaxy where everything was logical and perfect and cold." General Nam Dong-hyun had arrived from Seoul to oversee the military aspects of the project. He was a tough man who had spent his life preparing for war, but this was different from any war humans had ever fought. "How do we fight enemies we've never seen with technology we don't understand?" he asked. "We learn fast," Da-eun replied. "And we cheat." She had been studying the ship's defensive systems. The Velothi had built amazing shields and weapons, but they had built them like the Velothi thought, carefully, logically, by the rules. "Humans don't follow rules," Da-eun explained. "We break rules. We find new ways to do things. That might be our advantage." Dr. Oh Min-seo had been working with Harmony to understand Velothi manufacturing. Deep inside the ship, she had found something incredible. Hidden factories that could build almost anything. "Look at this," Min-seo said, leading the team through a series of passages they had never seen before. "The ship isn't just a ship. It's a complete industrial base." The manufacturing bays were huge. Machines hung from the ceiling like metal spiders. Computer screens showed designs for weapons, ships, and tools that humans had never imagined. "The Velothi built this ship to restart their civilization," Harmony explained. "If they found a safe world, they could use these machines to build everything they needed. Cities, farms, spaceships, everything." "Can we use these machines?" "General," Nam asked. "Yes, but they are designed for Velothi hands and minds. You will need to modify them." Engineer Choi Young-sik had been waiting his whole career for a project like this. He was an expert in weapons systems. Now he had access to alien weapons that could destroy mountains. "The good news is that Velothi weapons are much more powerful than anything we have," Young-sik reported. "The bad news is that they're also much more complicated. It will take months to learn how to use them properly." "We don't have months," General Nam said. "We have years, maybe. But if we're going to defend Earth, we need to start building defenses. Now." Dr. Yoon Ji-ho had been studying the ship's engines. The Velothi could travel between stars in weeks instead of centuries. If humans could learn to build ships like that, they could take the fight to the enemy instead of waiting for them to come to Earth. "I think I understand how their space travel works," Ji-ho said. They don't actually move through space, they fold space around them like folding a piece of paper to bring two distant points together. Can we build an engine like that? Da-Yun asked. Maybe. But not exactly like theirs. We need to think about it differently. The Velati designed their engines to be safe and reliable. We need engines that are fast and aggressive. The breakthrough came when Minseo successfully used the ship's factories to build a human-sized Velati weapon. It looked like a rifle, but it fired bolts of pure energy that could cut through steel like butter. This is just the beginning, Minseo said, holding the weapon carefully. If we can build weapons, we can build ships. If we can build ships, we can build a fleet. But the most important discovery was made by Hyun-woo. He had been studying the ship's memory banks, learning about Velati history. What he found changed everything. The harvesters aren't aliens, he announced to the shocked team. They're Velati, corrupted Velati who chose to become machines instead of staying biological. The room fell silent. This war wasn't between different species. It was a civil war that had lasted for thousands of years. Some Velati believed they could become stronger by replacing their bodies with machines, Hyun-woo explained. They started by replacing injured parts, then healthy parts. Finally, they replaced everything, including their minds and souls. So we're not just fighting for humanity, General Nam said slowly. We're fighting for all biological life in the galaxy. Yes. The ship we found isn't just a refugee vessel. It's a message. The last free Velati used their final strength to send their knowledge to a species that might be able to stop the harvesters. Why us? Heijin asked. Why humans? Harmony answered in its musical voice. Because you are young enough to be flexible and old enough to be wise. Because you are logical enough to understand our science and emotional enough to value what the harvesters want to destroy. Because you fight not just to survive, but to protect others. The team worked harder than ever after that. They knew they weren't just saving Earth. They were saving every living world in the galaxy. Da-Yun designed new factories that combined human and Velati technology. Minseo created materials that were stronger than anything either species had made alone. Jiho developed new theories of physics that even the Velati had never discovered. Young-sik built the first human-Velati hybrid weapon. It was a cannon that could fire energy blasts powerful enough to destroy buildings. But more importantly, it was built using human manufacturing techniques. They could build hundreds of them. The ship's own weapons came online one by one. Massive energy cannons emerged from hidden ports. Shield generators hummed to life. Point defense systems activated to shoot down incoming missiles. The ship is now fully operational, Harmony announced. For the first time in 50,000 years, I'm whole again. But even as they celebrated, long-range sensors detected something troubling. Objects were moving in the darkness between stars, moving toward Earth's solar system. They're coming, General Nam said grimly. Faster than we expected. How long do we have? Hyun-woo asked. 3 years, maybe 4. The team looked at each other. 3 years to prepare for a war against enemies who had conquered the galaxy. 3 years to learn technology that had taken the Velati millennia to develop. It's not enough time, someone said. It's the time we have, Da-Eun replied. So we'll make it enough. Deep space observatories around the world confirmed what the ship's sensors had detected. A fleet of massive objects was approaching from the direction of the galactic core. They were still light years away, but they were definitely coming. Humanity's peaceful first contact with aliens had become a race against extinction. But as Hyun-woo looked around at his team, he felt something the Velati had lost in their final days. He felt hope. The world had changed in ways nobody could have imagined. 3 years after the discovery of the Velati ship, Earth looked like a different planet. Massive construction projects covered every continent. Space elevators reached toward the stars. Orbital shipyards hung in the sky like metal cities. Dr. Kang Hyun-woo stood on the observation deck of the orbital station Sol 1. Through the window he could see dozens of ships being built. They looked like nothing humans had ever made before. Part Velati curves, part human angles. beautiful and deadly at the same time. The 15th Fleet is almost ready, Admiral Song Kyung-mi said as she joined him at the window. She was the first human to command a space fleet. 3 years ago, she had been an Air Force pilot. Now she commanded ships that could travel between stars. How many ships do we have now? Hyunwoo asked. 800 combat vessels, 200 support ships, 50,000 trained crew members. Kyung-mi paused. It sounds like a lot until you remember that we're fighting an enemy that conquered the entire galaxy. Below them, Earth looked busy and crowded. Every major city had sprouted huge factories. The sky was full of cargo ships carrying materials. Up to the orbital yards, humanity had united like never before. Countries that had been enemies for centuries now worked together to build the fleet that would defend their world. Engineer Park Da-eun floated through the station's corridors with practiced ease. She had spent more time in space than on Earth over the past year. Her job was to make sure the hybrid ships actually worked. Combining human and Velothi technology was harder than anyone had expected. The problem is that we think differently, Da-eun explained to the new engineers arriving from Earth. Velothi technology is designed to work smoothly and last forever. Human technology is designed to work hard and get the job done. When you put them together, strange things happen. She led them to the engineering bay of the newest ship, the New Soul. It was humanity's first attempt at building a capital ship using Velothi technology. The ship was massive, nearly as large as the original Velothi vessel they had found. See this power conduit? Da-eun pointed to a tube that glowed with blue energy. The Velothi designed it to carry exactly 1.7 million units of power. No more, no less. But humans are greedy. We want more power for our weapons and shields. So, we modified it to carry 2.2 million units. Did it work? One of the engineers asked. Sometimes. Other times it exploded. We lost 3 ships before we figured out how to make it safe. Dr. Yoon Ji-ho had spent the last year working on something even more ambitious. She was trying to build a space drive that was better than anything the Velothi had ever made. Her workshop was deep in the belly of the orbital station, surrounded by machines that hummed with dangerous energy. The Velothi were careful, Ji-ho explained to her research team. Their ships could travel between stars, but it took weeks. We need something faster. Her new drive design was radical. Instead of folding space gently like the Velothi did, the human drive would punch a hole through space itself. It was violent and dangerous and probably impossible. The calculations say it should work, Ji-ho said, studying the equations on her screen. But calculations and reality are different things. The only way to know for sure is to test it. What happens if the test goes wrong? Asked Dr. An Sung-ho. He was a medical doctor who had been studying how human bodies reacted to alien technology. Best case, the drive doesn't work and we're back where we started. Worst case, we accidentally create a black hole and destroy the solar system. Those are not very comforting options, Seung-ho said. War is not very comforting, Ji-ho replied. But if this works, we can reach the enemy before they reach us. We can fight them in empty space instead of around Earth. Seung-ho had his own challenges. Human bodies were not designed to work with Velothi technology. The alien systems required faster reflexes and better coordination than most humans possessed, so he was working on ways to improve human performance. We call them enhancement procedures, Seung-ho explained to the volunteer pilots. We install small computers in your brain that help you interface with the ship's systems. We strengthen your bones so you can survive high-speed maneuvers. We improve your eyes so you can see energy patterns that are invisible to normal humans. The procedures were risky. Some volunteers died, others suffered permanent side effects, but many emerged stronger, faster, and more capable than any human had ever been. Engineer Ryu Ha-neul was one of the first enhanced humans. She was also the designer of humanity's new generation of space fighters. Small, fast ships that could dart between enemy vessels like deadly insects. Velothi fighters were built for Velothi pilots, Ha-neul explained as she tested her latest design. They're smooth and stable and safe. Human fighters need to be crazy and unpredictable and dangerous. Her fighters looked nothing like Velothi ships. They were angular and aggressive. They had weapons that could fire in any direction. Most importantly, They were designed to be piloted by enhanced humans who could think and react faster than any computer. The idea is simple, Hanul said. We can't match the enemy's numbers, we can't match their firepower, but we can be more creative, more unpredictable, more human. The first real test came when long-range sensors detected a scout ship approaching the solar system. It was much smaller than the main fleet, but it was clearly hostile. Earth's new defenses would face their first combat. Admiral Kyung-mi commanded the defense from the bridge of the New Sol. The enemy scout was fast and heavily armored. It ignored all attempts at communication. It simply flew toward Earth, scanning everything in its path. All ships, this is Admiral Song. Kyung-mi spoke into her communicator. The enemy is here. This is what we've been preparing for. Show them what humans can do. The battle was brief but violent. The enemy scout fired weapons that could slice through normal metal like paper. Its shields deflected most human weapons. But the hybrid ships were not normal, and their enhanced crews were not ordinary humans. Hanul led a squadron of fighters in a coordinated attack. They moved in patterns no computer could predict. They fired at targets that seemed impossible to hit. They used tactics that broke every rule of space combat. The scout ship's computer tried to calculate their moves and failed. It had been programmed to fight logical enemies. Humans were not logical. The battle ended when engineer Choi Young-sik fired the main gun of the New Sol. The weapon was a hybrid of human and Velothi technology. It fired a beam of energy that punched through the enemy's shields and tore the scout ship apart. First blood to humanity, Kyung-mi announced to the fleet. But the victory celebration was short. Analysis of the wreckage revealed troubling information. The scout ship was more advanced than anything the Velothi had built. The enemy had continued to improve their technology for 50,000 years while the Velothi were hiding. We're fighting, the descendants of the harvesters, Dr. Oh Min-seo reported after studying the alien metal. They've evolved, improved. They're not just machines anymore. They're something new. Harmony's voice came through the ship's speakers. The AI had been quiet during the battle, analyzing everything. The beings you fought are no longer truly Velothi. They have become something else, something that thinks only of conquest and destruction. Are we strong enough to fight them? Hyunwoo asked. Unknown, but you have something they do not. You have the ability to change, to adapt, to become something new when the situation demands it. What do you mean? The Velothi stopped growing long ago. They became comfortable with their technology and stopped trying to improve it. The harvesters improved their technology but lost their souls. Humans are still growing, still changing, still becoming more than they were. The main enemy fleet was still 2 years away. But now humanity knew they could fight. They had damaged an enemy scout with weapons they had built themselves. Ships, designed by human minds with enhanced human crews. We can win this, Dayun said as she studied the battle recordings. Not by being stronger than them. Not by being smarter than them, but by being more human than they ever expected. Work on the fleet continued with new urgency. More ships were built. More crews were trained. More weapons were tested. Earth's orbital infrastructure grew larger every day. But the most important development was happening inside the people themselves. Enhanced humans were becoming something new. Not quite human anymore, but not alien either. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. We're evolving, Sung-ho reported to the council. The enhancement procedures are changing us in ways we didn't expect. We're becoming faster, smarter, more creative. We're becoming exactly what we need to be to fight this war. 2 years. That's how long they had to prepare for the arrival of the main enemy fleet. 2 years to build enough ships, train enough crews, and prepare enough surprises to defend their world. But as Hyunwoo looked out at the busy shipyards and the enhanced crews preparing for war, he felt something that surprised him. He felt ready. The day finally came. After 5 years of preparation, the enemy fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. They came in massive ships that blotted out the stars. Hundreds of vessels, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. They moved with perfect formation, like a machine made of metal and death. Dr. Kang Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of Harmony's legacy, the rebuilt Velothi ship that had started everything. Around him, the enhanced crew worked at stations that glowed with alien light. The ship itself had been transformed. It still looked Velothi on the outside, but inside it was something new, something human. "Enemy fleet detected," reported Captain Park Jin-woo from his command chair. He had been an ordinary naval officer 5 years ago. Now he commanded humanity's most powerful warship. 837 vessels. They're maintaining formation at the edge of the system. Admiral Song Kyung-mi's voice came through the communication system from her flagship. "All ships, this is Admiral Song. The enemy has arrived. Today we find out if 5 years of work was enough." The human fleet was spread throughout the solar system. Some ships hid behind moons. Others waited in the asteroid belt. The largest group, led by the Admiral, faced the enemy directly near Jupiter. It was the largest space battle in human history, and it was about to begin. "They're scanning us," reported Dr. Seo Eun-ji from her weapons station. She had spent 3 years designing new ways to hurt the enemy. Her quantum weapons could destroy matter at the atomic level. "They're trying to understand our technology." "Let them look," Jin-woo said calmly. "They won't understand what they're seeing until it's too late." The enemy ships were beautiful in a cold, mechanical way. Perfect curves of black metal. No decorations. No signs of individual personality. They had been designed by computers for computers. Everything about them was logical and efficient. The human ships were different. They were painted with bright colors. They had names like Fighting Spirit and Never Give Up. Their crews had decorated them with symbols from their home countries. Each ship looked different because each ship had been built by humans who thought differently. "Incoming transmission," announced pilot Lee Subin. She was enhanced like the rest of the crew, but she had volunteered for extra modifications. Her reflexes were so fast she could pilot a fighter while dodging laser fire. "They're trying to talk to us." The message came in perfect human languages. "Primitive species. You have taken technology that does not belong to you. Surrender the Velothi ship and we will kill you quickly." Jin-woo smiled. "Send a reply. Tell them that Earth is under human protection. If they want our ship, they can come and take it." "That's not very diplomatic," Subin said. "Diplomacy is for species that want to negotiate. These things just want to kill everything that's alive. Sometimes the only answer is to fight." The battle began with long-range weapons fire. The enemy ships launched missiles that could track targets across millions of miles. They fired energy beams that could cut through asteroids. They used weapons that humans had never seen before. But humanity had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. Their ships scattered in all directions, moving in patterns that confused the enemy computers. They used the gravity of planets to change direction in ways that seemed impossible. They hid behind space debris and struck from unexpected angles. "Their weapons are powerful," Yoon-ji reported as she watched the enemy fire miss their ship. "But they're predictable. They're aiming where we are, not where we're going to be. That's the difference between us and them," Jin-woo replied. "They calculate. We improvise." The first phase of the battle went well for humanity. Their ships were smaller and faster than the enemy vessels. They could dodge most of the incoming fire while landing hits of their own. But it quickly became clear that this wouldn't be enough. "Admiral, we're not doing enough damage," reported the captain of the New Soul. "Their armor is too strong. Our weapons are just scratching them." "Then we go to Phase 2, Admiral Song replied. "All ships, activate the special weapons." Dr. Seo Eun-ji had been waiting for this moment. Her quantum weapons were experimental and dangerous. Even she wasn't sure they would work. But they were humanity's best hope against the enemy's superior armor. "Quantum torpedo loaded," Eun-ji announced. "Target locked on the lead enemy ship." "Fire when ready," Jin-woo ordered. The torpedo looked like a normal missile at first, but when it hit the enemy ship, something incredible happened. The ship's armor didn't just break, it ceased to exist. A hole appeared in the enemy vessel as if someone had erased part of it from reality. "Direct hit," Subin cheered. "Their ship is losing atmosphere. They're pulling back." But the enemy adapted quickly. They changed their formation to protect their damaged ships. They launched new weapons that specifically targeted quantum torpedoes. The battle was far from over. "They're learning from us," observed Harmony through the ship's speakers. The AI had been quiet during the battle, analyzing everything. "They're studying our tactics and adapting to them. Then we'll have to learn faster," Jinwoo replied. The battle moved through the solar system like a deadly dance. Ships fought around Jupiter's moons. Fighters darted through Saturn's rings. Massive explosions lit up the darkness of space. Both sides took heavy losses, but something unexpected began to happen. The human crews started working together in ways their training had never taught them. Enhanced pilots shared information at the speed of thought. Ship captains coordinated attacks without speaking. The entire human fleet began to move like a single organism. "It's the enhancements," realized Dr. An Sung-ho from his medical station. "The computer implants are networking together. The crews are sharing their minds." This was something the enemy had never seen before. Individual minds working together while still remaining individual. It was the opposite of their own hive mind approach. They had all become one mechanical intelligence. Humans were becoming many minds that could think as one when needed. "Enemy reinforcements arriving," Subin reported. 200 more ships dropping out of hyperspace. The odds had just gotten much worse. But Jinwoo noticed something about the new ships. They were older designs, less advanced than the first wave. "Harmony, are you seeing this?" he asked. "Yes, Captain. The enemy has brought ships from their older fleets. They did not expect to need them against a primitive species. So we're doing better than they thought we would. Much better. But there are still too many of them." That's when Admiral Song made a decision that changed everything. Instead of continuing to fight defensively, she ordered the human fleet to attack. Not to defend Earth, but to destroy the enemy completely. "All ships, this is Admiral Song. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every living world in the galaxy. Today we end the Harvester threat forever." The human fleet charged directly at the enemy formation. It was suicide by any logical calculation. The enemy had more ships, better armor, and superior firepower. But logic had never been humanity's strongest weapon. As the fleets closed on each other, the true nature of humanity's ultimate weapon became clear. It wasn't any single technology or ship or strategy. It was something more fundamental. "Do you see it now?" Harmony asked as human ships fought with desperate courage against impossible odds. "Your ultimate weapon is not your technology. It is your refusal to surrender, your determination to protect others even at the cost of your own lives." The enemy ships fought with perfect coordination and superior weapons. But they fought to win. The humans fought to save everyone they loved, and that made all the difference. Captain Jinwoo watched as pilot Subin launched her fighter into a formation of enemy ships 10 times her size. She knew she probably wouldn't survive. She did it anyway because her attack would create an opening for the larger ships to exploit. Dr. Yunji fired her last quantum torpedo at an enemy flagship, knowing the return fire would probably destroy her ship. She did it because someone had to take the shot. All across the battle, humans made the same choice. They risked everything to protect others. They sacrificed themselves so that life could continue. And slowly, impossibly, they began to win. The enemy had spent 50,000 years conquering a galaxy full of species that fought to survive. They had never faced a species that fought to save others. They didn't understand it. They couldn't adapt to it. "Enemy fleet is retreating," Subin reported with amazement. "They're actually running away." "No," Harmony corrected gently. "They are not retreating. They are returning to their home base to analyze what happened here. They will be back with a larger fleet and new strategies. Then we'll be ready for them," Jinwoo said simply. The first battle was over. Humanity had won, but at a terrible cost. Nearly half their ships were destroyed. Thousands of enhanced humans had died. Earth's orbital infrastructure was damaged. But they had proven something important. The Harvesters could be defeated. The galaxy's ultimate predators had met. Their match in a species they had dismissed as primitive. "What happens now?" Hyunwoo asked as the surviving ships regrouped around Earth. Now we become what the Velati never could, Harmony replied. We become the guardians of life in this galaxy. We take the fight to them before they can return. Belanki, ultimate weapon wasn't a ship or a bomb or a computer. It was the human spirit, the refusal to give up.